So welcome to Mom Talk. This is a series we are really excited about bringing because we did it a couple years ago pre-COVID, and we did it via Facebook Live, and we had a phenomenal response. And it's just about us moms who also work and own businesses and crush goals, and we're out here living the life. And I don't know about you ladies, but my life does not look anything like Instagram or Facebook. Or
Definitely
TikTok.
not.
Well, maybe TikTok. It depends on the mom that I'm following.
My life might look a little like Instagram because it's scarce.
Okay, good point. I can see that.
I might look like the TikTok moms that look like they're half dead.
No, you know what? I feel like you always look very well put together.
Yeah,
Your information's always on point.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I kind of wing it, so thank you.
And at least you're doing the
Real
activity,
knowledge.
you know?
Yeah.
I think that's the most important piece of the puzzle is just making sure that you just press record if you're going to make content or if you're going to connect with your clients, connect with people, just do it.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I think that what made this successful last time that we did it and what will help moms that are out there and that are business owners is for them to see, one, what we do as business owners, to understand the dynamic of our family. So like how many kids we have, we're married, all of that. I mean, I can't express enough the transparency of like our day-to-day life. Like, if there wasn't a table sitting here, everybody would see that I have joggers on because I had a rough morning and I put my makeup on in the truck on the way here while my 16-year-old drove me here. So,
And you bring up a good point,
Brenda.
you know, at the end of the day, we are created to just get the job done, regardless of the setting. If we can do it at home, great. But if we can't, we have to do it on the go. That's also something that we are capable of doing.
and I won't lie. I mean, it doesn't always get done.
I guess you're right.
Leslie here looks phenomenal without makeup on.
She sure does.
Don't guess.
I have dark circles to hide.
Yes.
And Bethma's always done. She looks like Instagram on a daily basis.
I thank you.
Bethma is Instagram.
Not when I wake up, though.
Well, let's do this. Let's kind of start by introducing ourselves. So,
Okay.
Bethma, you go ahead.
So my name is Bethma. I am married. I've been married to my husband for 9 years. We've been together for 13 years. We do have 3 children together. We have 2 boys, a 13-year-old and a 10-year-old. And then we just recently gave birth to our baby girl. She is 17 months. So it is safe to say that life at home is very hectic, especially being in the real estate industry, you know, and being a business owner as well. I feel like there's a lot on my plate on a day-to-day basis. So that's kind of me.
Yeah. Leslie.
Okay, so my name is Leslie, and I'm a real estate agent. I have 6 children altogether, my husband and I. So 23, 21, 15, I'm sorry, now 16. No, I'm lying. 15, 12, 3, and 1.
A lot.
Yeah, a lot. Just a lot of kids, okay? It's fun. It's fun. Sometimes it's hectic.
Yeah.
I have 3 boys that are with me all the time and 1 boy that's with me very often. The other 2 are girls. They're grown, and they don't see us too often. They do their own thing.
Well, and I think what's important is that there's a lot of family dynamics between the 3 of us. You have a blended family. You've got a baby.
Yes.
And teenagers.
Yes.
My name's Lindsay. I'm Lindsay Whitney, and I'm also a real estate agent. I've got 3 teenagers, so that's the season of my life. So I feel like outside of being a grandparent, we kind of cover, I mean, you've got adult kids, and Leslie has toddlers. You've got newborns, and then we all 3 have teenagers.
Yes.
So grandkids are really the only thing that we're missing and not in a hurry for, by the way.
Definitely not.
No, please.
And then the commonality that we all have is that we all own businesses in the real estate industry. So Bethma is a lender and Leslie and I are agents. So the real estate industry is a black hole of to-do lists. It never ends. So you really have to learn how to turn it off and learn how to manage your priorities, because otherwise, I mean, my husband has told me before, Lindsay, if I died, you'd be a multimillionaire because you would just work yourself to death.
How was it in the beginning, you know, as a mom and as a wife, getting into the industry, knowing that it takes up a lot of your time and it's very demanding? So how was that dynamic in the beginning?
It was
your journey.
It was a lot of hustle and a lot of grit. I mean, I got a lot of rejection up front. I learned a lot the hard way because I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have somebody to hold my hand and say, this is how you do it.
My mentor.
I actually wrote 34 offers before I got my first contract. So most people would have quit by then.
Wow.
I wish I had kept track of the gas money so I would know my return on investment with gas. Cause
I feel like that's something that a lot of just professionals or business owners in general tend not to keep track of is their mileage, and they should.
Yeah.
There's an app for that, actually. So I'll send it to you, and we'll post over here what the app is in the event that you are self-employed and you do use mileage. It's a self-tracking app. You can go ahead and put the days of the week, the times that you're supposed to be driving, and it'll automatically track every time you drive.
Yeah. So, but I mean, it was hard. I mean, when I started, my kids were toddlers. So I had 3 kids in 4 years.
3 kids in 4 years.
I waited until they got into elementary school to start. So they were VPK, first grade and second grade. But I mean, I was toting around kids and showings. I was going to appointments and like I would literally, we had a minivan and I made sure that when we bought it that I had the one with the video in it, and I would buckle my kids in and I would tell them, if you get out of your seat, I swear to you, you're not going to want to know what's going to happen. And I would go in and show a property and come back out, and half the time they'd be buckled in, the other half the time the boys would be
all over the place,
housing in the van.
Yeah.
So
but
some might call that bad parenting, but I call it real life.
Yeah, exactly.
That is definitely real life.
I feel like it's very sensitive in today's
It is very
day
sensitive.
And age,
I feel like any parenting advice is sensitive.
Yeah, I can completely relate to that because I don't know if you guys have seen my Instagram, probably, but I toted my last 2 children around for the first year of their lives, and I loved it. It was difficult. Once they started to talk and want to be up so much, I had to realize this is it. And finally, they were able to drink regular milk or pea milk. Sorry, that's what we give them. But from then, I was just like, oh my goodness, I don't know how people do this.
I don't know how you did it. I mean, I admire you. From the moment we started working all the time, you would always have your baby with you. And I'm just like, wow, how do you do it? You know, and I have a baby myself. So it's like, it's hard. It's not easy.
Yeah.
The answer is I don't.
Anymore.
I don't, period. I don't know how I do it, and I'm not doing it.
Oh my gosh.
I was just going to say, I'm grateful to be on the opposite end of the spectrum where I've got driving teenagers that, well, not really driving, driving with permits that can drive me around now. So I can get more work done in the passenger seat. Well, it's bittersweet.
Scary.
Yes. I mean, I'll be typing something and all of a sudden I look up, I'm like, slow down. Okay, stop.
That is so funny.
What's it called? The passenger driver.
Yeah.
When you're on the passenger seat and you want to control the driver, but it's scary because it's your baby and it's also your life in their hand.
Yeah.
So wait a second. Is Brendan going to be your driver?
By choice, probably not. If it was up to him.
Have you employed him as
No.
Okay. Just checking, because that means he's up for grabs.
Listen, I've taught my kids, and Harvey has taught our kids very well. They have learned at a very early age to negotiate. And there is very little that they do for free. So
do not settle.
Yeah. So now I will tell you, our kids have responsibilities at home. So a lot of kids get paid for chores around the house. We do not pay for chores around the house. That is the privilege of having a roof over your head and food to eat.
I agree.
So they do their own laundry. They fold their own clothes.
Oh, that's awesome.
They have monthly responsibilities between dishes and extra laundry, like towels, like the community laundry. Who's taking out the trash? Who's taking the cans down to the road? So all of that ancillary stuff is like, that's just their work. That's their job.
Yeah. We have a similar routine with, in our household, our boys, from the moment they wake up, they have, a list of things that they need to get done before they can even entertain the idea of getting on their iPad or going outside to play basketball, whatever it is that they want to do. As long as you get your household chores done, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
But it needs to get done first.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, I'm on the other side of the spectrum, and my children are very young, except for my 12-year-old, and he helps me immensely. I can't say that I don't pay him, but I'm supposed to do a ticket system. I have yet to implement it, but I will eventually do a ticket system. It's okay, well, you did this. You took out the trash without me having to ask you so many times a week. Then you get one ticket, and one ticket is worth a ride to Defy. I don't know, Planet 3.
Okay.
Yeah. So that is
like a reward system.
Yeah. So just so I can't take it away from him when he doesn't do what he's supposed to do.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
Eventually.
That's actually a good idea.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's my therapist told me that.
Yeah. Well, so he's at the age where it's like you're just a permanent chauffeur. So it's nice to have the boundary of, okay, well, you did what you're supposed to do, so now I'll take you here instead of just being worn out chauffeuring.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, you should try that with him. Maybe he'll do it.
I'm not putting anything else in place.
I'm done.
I love systems. I am a system person, but what I'm doing is working and I'm not touching it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Oh, yes. If it's not broken.
Exactly.
It's
Don't
not
fix
broken.
it.
I'm not touching
Leave
it.
it alone.
Don't have the energy to even put my thoughts on something new to try to do.
I don't blame you.
So
one thing that I did want to talk about on today's episode, this is our first episode, by the way, okay, is what you were mentioning earlier about complexity versus complicated.
Okay, so I went to Grow Leader at Church of the Highlands in Alabama this week, and it was amazing. It was about church leadership, and so much of it translates to business. I love going to conferences, and since COVID, I haven't really been able to go to any, mainly just because of the timing and the way it works. Like, I love going to the Tom Ferry Summit, but the last couple of years, it's been the week the school starts, and I've had, like, milestone years, like freshman in high school, and then another freshman in high school, and then middle school. So I didn't want to miss, like, first day of school for milestone years. So I haven't been in a couple years. So this is my first, like, being back in the conference setting since COVID, and I loved it because, like, you need that, like, pick me up, you know? Like,
for sure.
You get
interaction with people is so important.
Well, and just like the motivation that comes with going to something like that, because I get so caught up in the day to day that, like, I forget, like, that there's more to life than, work.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it was nice to kind of just have that revitalization. And I went to one of the breakout sessions that they did, and it was for women in ministry. Her name was Charlotte Gamble, I think was her last name. She was a phenomenal speaker, and she talked about how women have the reputation of being complicated, but complicated means that there's a lot going on and none of it's connected. And me putting my personal input, a lot of it tends to be drama, right? So, and people that know me know that I don't do drama. I don't have the mental energy for it. My plate is full. I don't do it. If you try to suck me into it, I'll punch you in the throat. So
we are not doing it.
But women are complex. And the difference is that complex means that there's a lot of things in motion. There's a lot of movement coming and going. But it's all interconnected.
Right.
And I thought that was a great analogy and a great way to describe women. And it's not complicated, it's complex. Like, we can make things complicated, it's, and that can be easy to do. It can be easy to be sucked into that drama. Right. Especially depending on
your circle and
your
who's
circle.
Around you.
Yeah. I mean, your circle has so much to do with how much drama is around you.
For sure.
But being complex just means that we have a lot going on. And what I loved is that she used the analogy of when God made Eve, he made her from the rib of the man. Okay, well, when you look at the job of the rib, and I'm doing this off of memory, I literally listened to this Wednesday. I did not have time to go back and research it. But when you look at the job of a rib is, there to protect you. It's there to surround your organs and keep them safe.
Right.
But it can also be broken. So it has to be flexible, but it can also break. If it does fall off or get cut off or broken off or whatever. It's the only bone in the body that regenerates itself. I did not know that.
Wow.
I didn't know that.
Me neither.
I even took anatomy in college, and I probably learned it and forgot that I learned it. But it also is one of the few bones that produces marrow with red and white blood cells. So it has immunity, so it's keeping, another layer of protection, but it also oxygenates.
Wow.
So, I was like, I always knew Eve was made from the rib, but I never thought about the complexities and the significance of the rib.
Right.
And a woman's role in life is so similar to that. We're the protectors of our children, of our families, of our house, and even of our husbands. I've been married to Harvey. This year will be 19 years in November, and we've been together for 21. I've always been very protective of him in the sense that, he's the protector of our house, but
You're the protector of him.
yes,
Yeah.
and he needs a place to go,
Right.
and
You're his refuge.
yeah, and vent or cry or whatever it is men need to do that they're not going to do in front of everybody.
Right.
And it's my job to protect that and let him know that it's a safe place to come to. But it's also my job to make sure that he gets the revitalization that he needs and he's oxygenized, and then that way he can perform his role as the head of the house. And we have a traditional marriage. I respect my husband. I'm a submissive wife in a biblical sense, not in a, people that know me that don't understand that in a biblical sense are you're submissive. Because I am a very strong, independent woman, but I'm submissive in my marriage. So it was really neat to understand, how complex women are with all the things that we have going on with, 3 non-driving teenagers. One of them was a competitive dancer, so that's literally year round. We get a nice little 2-week break in the month of May. Yeah, in May. And then my oldest son plays basketball. My middle son just does whatever he feels like doing that day, whether it's go to the beach and surf or skimboard or fish or basketball or whatever. He's just kind of that outdoorsy guy. Mm-hmm. There's just a lot going on. And in the mix of all that, we have all the things business, and there's so much pressure in the business world to make sure that we are performing
at a high level.
Yes, at a high level. And, meeting goals. And I have a personal assistant, so make sure that I'm communicating to her. And then I've got girls on my team and make sure that I'm being a good leader to them and still being a good agent to my buyers and sellers. And,
it's a lot.
All the things. It's a lot.
Yeah, this week for me has been really challenging because out of nowhere, my daughter, she's a great sleeper from the moment she was born. From the moment she was in the hospital, she slept a good 10 to 12 hours throughout the night, except for this week. This week has been really challenging. I feel like she's going through an episode of separation anxiety. I was reading, doing a little bit of research of my own, and
all the moms with colicky babies are telling you to shut up right now.
I know, right? I'm sorry, but this is what's happening right now, and so I'm not used to it, right? Yeah. And so she's waking up sometimes 3-4 times at night, wanting me. She wants me specifically. Yeah. She wants me to carry her. She wants me to, feed her, and it's a lot to not, to have to wake up and do it all over again, perform and, be wife, be mom, be the business owner and just keep it all together and have a positive energy at that.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. It's definitely, you guys, I mean, what else can I really say right now?
So I think the question that we get all the time, and one of the reasons that I'm in the process of starting a women's ministry is because people will look at how much on my plate and they see that I've actually lost business because people know I'm busy. And so they think I'm too busy for them.
Right.
So I've had to put a lot of systems in place to manage the busyness, but also find rest because that's equally as important as everything else. Because if we're just pouring out and pouring out and pouring out and we never take time to be poured into,
then you will have nothing.
Yeah, you have nothing to give. Yeah. And sometimes being poured into means, taking a walk on the beach by yourself or going for a massage or a facial or, if you're on a budget because the budget doesn't always allow for that, then just
Read a
waking
book.
up early enough to have a cup of coffee. Yeah. And some quiet time in the morning, or like going to this conference was a huge cup filler for me. So that's like, like the little hour in the morning before the kids get up is like enough to fill your cup for the day.
Yeah.
But to be able to get away for 2 or 3 days and go to something big like that, or go to a weekend retreat, I mean, that's a cup filler that'll last for, 3, 4, 5 months.
Yeah.
6, depending on how you manage your time.
So you mentioned the importance of having systems in place. Like, what does that look like for you?
So for me, I think, and Leslie and I have worked on this. For me, the biggest one is time blocking. So it's understanding like where I have the time, what, that time is designated for and who it's designated to. And there's actually blocks in my calendar, one for personal time. So like personal doctor's appointments, dentist, like all the things that just get in your way because it's extra stuff to do. Also, there's time blocked in my calendar for kids. The first thing that goes in my calendar is their activity. So as soon as their season starts for whatever it is they're doing,
Yes.
I put their stuff in there and I go to all of my kids' stuff. I might miss a game or two for my son because we've got multiple kids going on, but it's rarely because of work. And I actually have a friend of mine, Nicole, to thank for that, because the first year that my daughter danced, I had a big buyer, and they're like a $2 million buyer coming into town the weekend that she was doing regionals over in Orlando. And I missed it. And it was her first season, so I didn't really understand what I was missing. So in my mind that day, I didn't really realize I was missing that much. And Nicole brought her back to me and said, she really missed you today. Like, she was looking for you, and I could tell she really missed you because, with a daughter in dance, if you're not a dance mom, you don't understand this.
Passion.
Well, it's not just that, but it's like all the little things that have to happen before they can go on stage, like getting their hair tied in and their bun done and their makeup right and their eyelashes on and, all the little things that they want mom's help for. I mean, and honestly, how often do these girls want mom's help? So just the fact that there's still a situation that arises
you have to capitalize
where she needs help.
Moment.
Yeah.
How old is she?
Well, she's 13 now, but she still will come ask me for help. I mean, not very often. And it usually has to do with her eyelashes, and I'm her last resort because I put them on the worst out of everybody there.
You need to bring her to me.
That's funny.
Listen, I was a tomboy, so this whole dance thing was a really big adjustment to me. Like, the first year she did it, I was like, all right, we're going to try cheerleading because it's at least out at the football field where your brothers are. She did that for a year, and she actually came to me and was like, Mom, cheer is just too much drama. I can't do it. I really want to dance. And I was like, oh, fine, you can dance.
What type of dance again?
She dances at Dance Mania, so she does a combination of like jazz, lyrical, pom, and then she's on one variety team that has like a little bit of hip hop mixed into, but they don't have like an actual hip hop team.
That's so cute.
So does she have a really successful TikTok channel? Does she like to do the TikTok dances?
She records all the time, but she never posts them.
Oh, she sounds like me.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's definitely like me.
Yeah.
I record everything and nothing gets posted. I record everything multiple times and it's still posted.
It's like,
but how long has she been dancing?
Oh, geez. Like 6 years, I think.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm happy that she loves.
I mean, most of my real estate career, I've been juggling a sport or two for the boys and dance.
Yeah.
So
That's a lot.
But I mean, I would say I was interviewed by Kurt Kessel a couple months ago, and he asked me the same thing, and time blocking was my answer then too, because it's just managing the time that you have. One is just probably the most important thing you can do, because for me, my priorities are God, family, business. So even though there's a lot of business to do, and that it feels like that consumes the good majority of my life, I fail at this often, so I'm not saying that I'm good at this, but my goal is to manage my time so when I'm off, my brain is off. My husband is going to listen to this and laugh hysterically because it's so hard for me.
So hard to do.
It is. And I'm like 100% or nothing. Like, there's no like middle ground for me. It's either like my brain is on work or my brain is not on work. Right. And when my brain is not on work and people ask me questions about real estate, I probably sound like a flubbering idiot because I can't spit it out when my brain is off.
Yes. That's funny.
So, but how about you? I mean, you've got a good mix of age. Like, what's your like one magic trick to juggle it all?
I feel like I don't have a magic trick to juggle anything. I watched something that, what's the writer of Grey's Anatomy's name? Shonda Hall.
I don't know.
Whatever her name is.
Shonda something.
Shonda. So she has like a land named after herself, that woman.
Okay.
She made a
Shondaland.
speech. Shondaland, yeah. She made a speech and it resonated with me because she stated that whenever people ask her how she does it all, her answer is genuinely she does not. So wherever I am not succeeding at one aspect of my life, I am succeeding elsewhere. If I'm doing really well with, well, I can't say that because I feel like I do a really good job of evenly distributing myself. But there may be times like how you had to miss Abby's first year or how you did, and then you realized, you know what, this was a really important work.
Yeah, my priority has to change a little bit.
Yeah, it was. There are times where you will not succeed in everything all the time. And I've learned that that's okay. My husband picks up the slack and the sacrifice on that end, and I greatly appreciate him. Shout out to Nefa. I love you. But he does do a really good job of, he's a lot of support in general. With all of the kids, he's a phenomenal dad, and just he does a really good job at being present. So I did learn that as much as we try, we're not always going to succeed on every aspect. Time blocking is the death of me. I've been trying to time block since I started real estate 5 years ago. I'm still trying to time block. But no, I've gotten really good at it. With your help. It's not...
She's initiated.
I've initiated...
the activity.
I've done really good with time blocking, and I've actually taught a few people now that we're accountability partners. And, you know, shout out to my accountability partners at Compass. I have been teaching people, believe it or not. So it's just that it's not perfect.
Yeah.
And I think that's all of our biggest issues is, if it's not perfect, since we're perfectionists, we have a hard time with doing it.
Agreed.
And that is the biggest enemy. So
I think you hit on another big issue too, though, because you said you kind of do it evenly, and then what you can't do, your husband picks up for you. And I think outside of perfection, delegation for us is hard. So hard.
Yes.
So hard because
we feel like no one
we're
does
perfectionists. And so we want it done right. And by the time we delegate it, we could have just done it ourselves.
Right.
But then we're always in the weeds because we're trying to do it all ourselves.
Right.
So I feel like that's another really big deal. And I will say, like, last year was a pivotal year for me and my business. I had always been stuck in that like $8 to $13 million in volume. And I went from 2021, I did $10 million in volume. 2022, I did just over 20 in the MLS and 25 with off-market properties. Somebody asked me, like, what changed for you to have that kind of growth? And I said, I believe it's two things. One, I joined the team that had the right systems. So joining CK was enormously pivotal for me because they had the systems that I needed on the back end.
Right.
So that I could just focus my time on the buyers and sellers that I'm working with. I'm not the paperwork queen. I'm not the listing queen doing all the input. Like, they took so much off my plate. But also, my husband retired from his career in law enforcement to join me in real estate, which opened up his schedule because prior to him retiring, I was mom and wife and business owner, but it was also kind of, there's very few women that I feel will truly understand this unless you're a first responder's wife. But as a first responder wife, you are essentially a single mom when your husband is working, because I can't call and just ask random questions because they can't always answer, you know, and I can't call and vent that this just happened because they're just trying to come home alive, you know, or like there were years where he was on night shift while I was trying to get my business going. So it was like, in night shift, I mean, you really are. I mean, if you're a wife and a mom with a husband on night shift, and I think this is probably true with any field, but especially a first responder, I think that you even feel that single mom crunch a little bit more because they have to sleep. So they're sleeping in the afternoon. They get up in enough time to get ready, spend some time with the kids, eat something, and then they're back on duty.
Back on it, yeah.
And, you know, so it's like when he was on night shift, it was really hard.
And then
but having him help, like he was finally for the first time in our, at the time, 17, 18 years of marriage, able to help with the kids. So instead of me having to be like, stop at 2:30 and go pick up the kids and get them home and get them to sports and then try to sit down and get back into work mode, which rarely happened. You know, so I was basically a $10 million producer working a half day every day because I would have to wrap up in time to go pick up the kids and then and then be mom.
That makes sense.
So, and that allowed me to work, till 5, and then sometimes 6 or 7 or 8, depending on the season.
Yes.
So,
Okay.
and that's the other thing, is that real estate's seasonal. So that's the other thing that you kind of hit on the head, or one of you said it, is that it shifts, like there's seasons where, I'm home at 4:00 because it's not our busy season. And then in busy season, my kids know that like I work 12 and 14-hour days because it's just what it is.
Right.
Yeah, that is number one. How can you sleep? Just to touch back on the fact that your husband was working overnight while you were trying to, get your business up and running. How can you really sleep not knowing what's happening? That's difficult in its own.
I feel like that's a question of faith. So I think that,
Thank goodness.
I am a believer, and I have a very strong faith. And were there nights where I would hear sirens running up and down the road, wondering if it was him? Absolutely. Like, it doesn't mean that there's not any fear or worry or anxiousness there. But as a believer, I believed that God had a plan, and that's what I had to rely on, was just that at the end of the day, I had to put my husband in God's hands. And what am I going to do?
And that's the thing, is if you're going to put it in his hands, you have to leave it in his hands.
Yeah.
You have to trust that he's going to be okay, and, take that weight off of your shoulders.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So to touch back on what we were talking about, sorry, I got sidetracked. Us and perfection, I feel like, is our biggest enemy at times.
It is.
100%.
One of our brokers or broker associates, our team leader, Dwayne Carpenter, he said to me once, done.
Done's better than perfect.
Done is better than perfect.
Yeah.
And I struggle daily.
In front of the camera.
Have you seen her try to record a video?
Yeah, I struggle with the camera. I just struggle with the camera.
Angles and,
I'm, I don't know, I guess self-conscious with being on the camera, which is weird because you can't shut me up in person. So it's very odd, but I just have a problem with being on camera. And on top of that, I feel, what was my other topic that I was going to touch on?
Opinionated people on social media that will comment and make mean comments after you finally decide to press play and release the footage.
Yeah, that did happen to us. That happened to me. And somebody made a comment stating that I was lying, and I couldn't lie. I couldn't even say what I was saying without a straight face. And it's not that my face wasn't straight. I have a crooked smile to begin with. And then I was just stressed. It was my first filming session, so it was funny, but it was
the one that we worked on all day. Somebody made a mean comment.
No, it was
the
one that we
recorded.
did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they made a rude comment and said, "That's a lie. You can't even say it with a straight face." I was just like, "What? I don't lie. I'm not lying about work. That's for sure."
You're probably the least likely to lie out of anybody I know.
I'd rather just tell you.
But I think that's what comes with putting yourself out there. I have no doubt there's going to be comments on this that, things that we say, especially about parenting, because we already said it's sensitive.
Yeah.
And people are going to tell us we're horrible mothers, or you're going to have, because we've brought faith into it, you're going to have your extremists that say, well, women shouldn't be working, or, whatever. So
I love my job.
Same.
We love it.
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure the Proverbs 31 woman was a working woman. If you don't agree, you should probably reread it. But, I've had people disown a friendship because I went back into the working world, and it is what it is. Wow. And at the end of the day, that's not my tribe. And I think that's what it chalks up to, is when you've got mean people, then that's where life gets complicated.
Yeah.
That's not your circle, because we don't need complicated. We have enough complexities going on in our life.
Yep. Even in the work field, it doesn't matter. I feel like the circle, regardless if it's work, if it's home, if it's just your day to day, it has to feel right. Yeah. If it doesn't feel right, it's draining. And if it's draining, then it impacts your performance. And if it impacts your performance, it's just a trickle-on effect.
Yeah.
You know what Leslie Mink just recently told us? I love you, Leslie. She said that, I believe it was Shane said to her, every yes means there are a few other no's associated with them. So
absolutely.
So when you say yes to something that could possibly drain you, you have to say no in another aspect of your life, or in another, maybe you could have helped a client that wasn't going to be, that you knew wasn't going to be as difficult as someone that you said yes to, even though you didn't feel that it was the right fit.
Yeah.
So,
So Lisa Turkhurst wrote a book on that called The Best Yes. And it pretty much boils down to, for everything in your life you say yes to, you're saying no to something else in the future. Because we only have so much time in the day, and we have to be, and this is something where I've learned to protect my time. We have to be very cognizant of what we say yes to. And I think that for us, especially being, I think for anybody, but especially being working moms and wives, is understanding what our vision is, and being very clear about that. Because if you're not clear about what your long-term goals are and what your vision are, you're going to say yes to every shiny thing that comes along because it looks good. So like we were asked 2 years ago by our church to lead. We were trying to get our youth group back up and running from COVID, and we were asked to lead, and my husband and I prayed about it. And this sounds really ridiculous, but I feel like God knows me so well that he knew that I would say yes to this, because I wanted to see the youth group back up and running, because my kids were missing out on that experience. And that was part of my childhood that I absolutely cherished, was the youth group that I was raised with and the friends that I had back then. And I just felt there's this giant, ugly palm tree in my front yard that I absolutely despise. That supposedly, if I took the time to call Disney, they would pay me to come get, and I just haven't done this.
Really?
But I hate it because it doesn't go like, I'm like the only Floridian that wishes that my yard lived in Alabama or Georgia. That's the kind of landscape that I like. So this giant palm is more money than what I am willing to pay to remove it, but I hate it. It's an eyesore to me. And so I felt like the Holy Spirit telling me, like, hey, if this is what the Lord wants you to do, then that palm tree is going to be removed. Like, somebody's going to come and they're going to take that palm tree. Cause I was like dead set on getting rid of this palm tree at this point in my life. And
do you still have the palm tree?
I do.
Oh,
so, and I shared this with my youth pastor. I said, listen, this is going to sound really stupid. Like, I'm not one of those weird Holy Spirit people that dances in church, but like, this was so clear. It was like somebody was standing next to me talking. And I know that I said, I know that I can't do this. And I think that God knows me well enough to know that I will say yes, thinking that I can do it. And then I will fall flat on my face and fail. And then the next year, I had the opportunity to start teaching women's Bible studies, but specifically women in business, that's where my heart is.
Yes.
Like, women in business is where my heart is. And that's the ministry that I want to focus on. And if I was leading a youth group, it would not have happened. So I would have been majorly distracted and exhausted. I mean, that's just exhausting I would have been like the number one person having to plan it and coordinate it and manage it and have all the weird conversations that you have to have with kids these days, like no PDA, but then we're having to look at like girl on girl PDA and boy on boy PDA and like all the complexities that come with,
I understand.
Teenagers these days.
Today's
So,
day and age.
I'm not there yet, please. Well, I am, but Jelani is like, so focused on sports. I'm so happy about it.
Yes.
So focused on sports that it's
challenging,
okay.
like how I'm sure that there are parents out there who have navigated their way into that conversation and have been successful at it, but how?
I don't know. I don't have advice on that one.
We're still figuring that out.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
But you know what? I feel like we have so much time left. I want to talk on a couple topics that I feel we addressed within our conversation, but we didn't get to touch on per se. Number one, our husbands. So what our significant others, spouses, I guess I'll say for everybody, what your spouse has to deal with having a spouse that's in the real estate industry.
Ooh.
I feel like there needs to be a support group. I told you guys this before. What I've learned in real estate is it is so difficult. It is not as simple as it looks like on TV. It is just not that simple, period.
You mean it doesn't look like Selling Sunset?
Oh my
It absolutely
It's not all glitz and it's not all glamour.
It looks nothing like Selling Sunset on a regular day. I feel that we absolutely need support, especially if you have children.
Yes.
Maybe if you don't have children, it might look a little bit more like Selling Sunset. But with children. It looks nothing like selling Sunset. So I do feel like for the men out, for the spouses for the real estate professionals that have spouses, I'm sorry because I'm trying to keep it gender neutral. I guess now that's whatever. Not to discourage you. Stay motivated. As long as you have support, you can do this. It does definitely take some time, but you do have to rely on your spouse. So communication is huge. I did speak to you guys about it because I genuinely feel like we need to have, I don't know, maybe a night for the spouses, our husbands. I'm just going to use husbands. Yeah. A night for our spouses to kind of just be able to talk about why this is so difficult and why they think we don't do anything, but we're always getting so much done. So that's something that I want to talk about. Tell me a little bit more about your experiences. I'm sure they're similar to mine. Sometimes I get home and my husband's like, what did you do all day?
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? I couldn't begin to tell you.
Well, since you asked, it can be challenging because, they're not in it, right? They have their own, well, at least depending on what your husband does. I know your husband is in real estate as well, but mine isn't, right? And so he works his job, which is in a totally different field. And, for us, it was just one of those things where I've always been like very independent. And I've always envisioned myself having my own business. And so it was a matter of a partnership, right? Just making sure that he understood what it was, like my day, what it was going to look like. For a long time, I worked a 9-to-5 and I also had my own independent beauty business on the side. And so my day was very hectic, but with his support and just making sure that we're always constantly communicating, I feel like wherever I slack, he picks up, like you mentioned earlier, but it's even still till this day, we've been doing it for so long. It's still not perfect,
It's challenging.
It is. It is challenging. It's
I will say
challenging.
that my husband
has a newfound appreciation.
He does have a newfound appreciation for everything that I was juggling, and he did not realize how much it was until he stepped into my world. And he even said, I knew you were busy. I knew you had a lot on your plate. I didn't realize how much it was.
Yeah, let me tell you a little bit about Lindsay Whitney here. Because Lindsay hired me. Well, she was my sponsor originally at a different brokerage. We're both now with Compass. But before, when we met 5 years ago, she took me on to just mentor me. 2 weeks in, her assistant left. And she said, hey, do you want to be my assistant until I find a replacement?
I had a problem with assistants leaving.
Took a few months.
There's a reason for that.
Half a year later or so. No, but I'm just kidding. It was, now I realize, and I'm sure Harvey completely understands, how absolutely difficult it really was.
Yeah.
It's not like real estate is for the first 5 years at least, it is a 10-hour day minimum. I don't know, 7. No, I'm just kidding. 5-6 days a week.
6.
6.
And even when the phone is off or the computer is off, your mind is still going. You're still trying to figure out, on the lender side, okay, if I do this way, this could work. If I do this that way, and it's a nonstop.
Yeah, I definitely know. Especially
there was literally times when I was getting started that I remember a stretch of 90 days where I didn't have a full day off.
I believe it. And when I came on, I remember for Christmas you left, and it was your first vacation in like 3 years.
Yeah.
And you were like, thank you so much. I haven't been able to have a vacation until now. I was like, oh. But you're a beast. You really are. So I'm forever grateful because
the old Lindsay would say, "No, I'm not."
No,
you have to
we got to give you your flowers.
Yeah, take them.
Yeah, we'll give you your flowers.
I'm learning.
Yeah, and I greatly appreciate you always and forever. Because of you, I'm a beast. I'm a small mini beast. I'm pretty good. I'm getting there.
Listen, Leslie, there's 7,000 agents in Brevard County. Leslie was in the top 300 last year with a baby on her hip. Yes. Nursing.
Nursing.
I mean, that's no small feat.
Yeah, I'm so happy I did it. It definitely taught me that I won't say invincible. Yeah, I'll say
you just have grit. I think that's what it boils down to. Yeah. I think that's what our common denominator is that we all hustle and we all have grit.
Yeah.
And when I say hustle, Like, I want to read, there's a book called Holy Hustle, and it's amazing. Everybody should read it. But when I say hustle, it's not like, and I learned this the hard way, and that's why I'm reiterating it right now. It's not work yourself to death, because I mean, I definitely worked myself to death. I really did. But it's also kind of what this industry requires if you're going to get started. You know, I guess if you came in with a huge sphere of influence, that you could have a little less hustle and a little more rest.
Or more money.
But I didn't even move to Dulles County till 2010, and I got started in real estate in 2014. So, I mean, I knew people, but I didn't have any credibility with them. I'd never been in business with them. And my background was the restaurant business. And I was coming out of a season of being a stay-at-home mom. So like nobody even knew my previous accomplishments and direct sales in the restaurant and stuff like that. So, you know, it's that credibility factor of you know, you have to sell before the people that you already know, like, and trust you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and I think that's the biggest hit that new agents take that they don't expect, is they think that they're going to get licensed and all of their friends and family are going to sell with them. And they're really usually the last ones to sell with you. Like, you have to prove yourself.
Correct.
Yes.
So,
yes.
I do completely, I believe and understand that. I'm grateful to, I guess, prior to being in real estate in general, I did sales. I was working at the mall as a manager. And I do feel like maybe, or I guess I've been here for so long now, and you have too.
Yeah. Yeah.
That luckily it helped a little bit, but well, I guess it did help. So coming in 4 years.
Yeah.
That's difficult.
Yeah.
And I remember you did 64 transactions by yourself without an assistant.
I did.
Which is phenomenal. Insane.
I don't think it was 64. So my first year I did 225,000.
2 transactions.
It really was. It was. My first house was like a $69,000 house. It was back in the foreclosure frenzy.
Oh, yes.
My second year, because of the amount of effort that I put into my first year, I did 3.6 million. And then my third year, I did 9.6. So I really believe that in real estate, when you have the right systems in place, like we talked about, there's potential for exponential growth.
Yes.
It's just consistency. But yeah, I mean, that 9.6, I did not have an assistant. And that's the year tough. That I remember being in my office and being like, somebody asked me like, hey, when's the last time you had a day off? And I was like,
it's been 2 months.
I don't know.
I can't even
I don't remember.
Yeah. It's like that.
And then it like triggered the thought. And so I went back and looked at my calendar, and I was like, scroll. And I was like, oh, it's been like 3 or 4 months.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So
another thing that I wanted to touch on, I feel like being a woman in any business, especially the real estate business, but in any business, I feel that we have to prove ourselves we just have to prove ourselves, period. So I asked Lindsay before we started this, before we started filming, just to find out, if you were in a room full of professionals, would most people approach your husband as opposed to you? Because I feel like that's a common, for me, I look very young, even though I am brilliant.
Yes, you are.
Thank you. I look very young, and I just feel like knowledge and wisdom is associated with age, and therefore, if you and I are standing next to each other, of course, you look older. Not bad. You look phenomenal.
Thanks.
But
beautiful.
You look gorgeous. You just look older.
What you're saying is I look wise.
You look wise. There you go. And then
wise choice of words.
Right. And with the amount of, if it were you, me, and Harvey, they're going next to Harvey. Harvey is Lindsay's husband. They're walking straight up to Harvey, and they're going to ask him, hey, I feel like that would be the normal thing. Whereas now Harvey's in general just very intelligent. I mean, in law enforcement, you have to learn everything. You know about everything. And laws. I remember he was really good with laws. But it's safe to say that I'm pretty intelligent, and Harvey and I would be on the same scale. If not, I would like to say that I'm a tad bit, a little bit more avid than Harvey. I'll say it. Maybe not, but let me say it, okay?
He's pretty smart.
Yeah, he's brilliant. But
smarter than what he leads on to.
Yeah, but they're not
you're
going
very
to.
Intelligent, yes.
They're not going to walk up to me. So you do have to prove yourself.
Yeah.
So I think part of that comes with experience.
Yeah.
And branding yourself. Like, I think in our industry, you have to brand yourself to be the knowledge broker.
Yeah.
You know, I think you have to be willing to put yourself out there on social media, which I was always really hesitant of. I didn't start doing it until last year. But I've gotten so much feedback from people who I knew, like just like random people at church or like, you know, in circles close to circles, you know what I mean? They're not in my direct circle, but we know who each other are. And they're like, oh, your videos, you know, it's such great information. And I think it's just being the knowledge broker and putting yourself out there and showing that you have the experience. And then that will, and I do think, and this is where I give Harvey a ton of credit because he builds me up. So and he's actually a lot better at that than I am for him. And that's something that I've really been working on, but he builds me up. So he builds me up to the people in his sphere of like, you know, Lindsay's the numbers person or Lindsay's the this or Lindsay's the that. So I do think that a lot of that credibility where people are coming to me versus going to him are because he sets that expectation of, you know, I'm the expert.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, and I do recognize that that's not normal in most marriages. But I mean, making that normal would be amazing.
Yeah. I mean, in my situation, I can absolutely relate because yes, you know, I appear to be younger than what I really am, but overall, being newly licensed, I've been in the industry for quite some time. And when you say that, it's like, oh, really? But the thing is, I was in corporate, right? So back then, before social media was really a thing, the corporate industry didn't really allow you to put yourself out there because it was such a corporate, strict environment, right? Whereas now, on the flip side, working directly for a direct lender, it's different. They encourage that. They encourage you to brand yourself and to put yourself out there. But on the flip side to that, social media, I always leveraged it for my beauty business. So then now it's one of those things where I'm transitioning away from that, or not necessarily away from that, but I'm starting to kind of pick. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out a way where I can merge the two so that people are aware that, hey, this is what kind of fed my beauty industry. This is what fed my business. You know, is my day-to-day job, which is, you know, banking, lending, mortgages. And so
'cause I didn't even realize how long you had been in the business until we talked a couple of weeks ago. Cause I knew you were newly licensed to like the loan origination side of it, but I didn't realize how much experience you had on the back side of it, which in my opinion is more important because you know how to put together a file. And that's like the crucial part.
That I'm a numbers girl, you know, what makes sense, I can figure it out. And that's one of the things is I've always been the type to want to like learn the policies and the procedures because I was never the type of person to accept someone just telling me this is what I do or this is how it's done. I like to just verify it for myself. And through just self-research, you learn a lot more. You know, and that's how I've always been. But yeah, I from the very beginning, I used to close mortgages. I was a default mortgage banker, so I helped people avoid foreclosures. I wore different hats in this whole, you know, mortgage industry, but now I'm directly a loan originator, a licensed loan originator, whereas before I was a registered, which is a little bit different, you know. So all in all, it's just what I'm passionate about and ultimately what I'm good at. You know? I feel like
well, and I think that's what is important for all of us is that we are passionate about the real estate industry. So we're working in an area that we're passionate about, which makes it a lot easier to wake up and do all the things. Because when people ask me, how do you do it all? I'm just like, I just wake up and do it. Like, I know what's on my plate. I know what has to be done. So I just wake up and do it. Like, there's not room for a bad attitude, which I do struggle with, especially prior to coffee. But you know, you just wake up and do it. And the more passion that you have for what you do, the easier it is to just wake up and get it done.
There is no, you absolutely cannot not do it.
Right. That's not an option.
There is no option. So you do it, and that's just what it is. It has to get done.
So we are going to wrap up. So I think this was a great first session for the Mom Talk comeback. And I mean, I really just like, you know, like calling this Mom Talk, you know, faith, family, and business, because that's really what we're here to talk about in a raw and transparent way, and in a way that helps other moms know that, listen, we are just here to wake up, like we just said, do the things that are on our plate and give 100% of what we have that day. And that 100% might look different today than it does tomorrow. I might be Superwoman tomorrow, but today I was not. Yeah. So Superwoman will come back. Today we are just getting through the day with what is on our plate. So, and it's okay to have those days, and it's okay to have the days where we say, okay, you know what? It's 3:00 and nothing's going my way and nothing on my plate is urgent. So we're just going to take the rest of the day and just, have a day to draw back, reset, and be ready for the next day. So,
well, what we do want to do is if you out there listening have any questions or comments or any topics that you do want us to touch, please go ahead and comment below so that we can touch on those the next time we get together and do a mom talk session. Thank you for watching. Well, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for
a little bit of everything.
Thank you for joining in.
For all the things.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.